Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. Nitai Gaur Hare Bha, Hare Bha, Hare Bha, Bha, Hare Bha. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajaka Acharya Astotra Satat Srimad is the Divine Grace is Confirmed Acharya Sila A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada Maharaj Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa and Parivrajaka Acharya Astotra Satat Srimad is the Divine Grace Sila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Goswami Prabhupada Maharaj Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavina Ki Jai. Namacharya Sila Haridasa Kora Ki Jai. Prem se kahao se Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda se Advaita Gadadhara se Vasadi se Gaura Bhaktavinda Ki Jai. Se Radha Krishna Gopal Gopinath Syama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Se Vrindavan Masura Dham Ki Jai. Se Mayapur Navadvip Dham Ki Jai. Se Jagannapuri Dham Ki Jai. Ganga Maya Yamuna Maya Ki Jai, Samati Tulsi Devi Bhakta Devi Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhakta Vinda Ki Jai, Nitai Gaur Premanandi. All glories to the Sama devotees, all glories to the Sama devotees, all glories to the Sama devotees. All glories to the Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 12, text 9. Title of this chapter is Dhruva Maharaj Goes Back to Godhead. Tasya Pritena Manasa Tam Datva Davidas Tataha Pashyatu Tadade Pashyatu Tadade Sopi Swapuram Pratyapadyata Tasya Pritena Manasa Tam Datva Davidastataha Pasyato Tadada Tadade Sopi Swapuram Pratyapadyata. Can someone try? Any ladies, anyone to try? So word translation and purport by Divine Grace is confined to Charles A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada Kij. Srila Prabhupada Kij. Srila Prabhupada Kij. So word for word translation, the candidate response to repeat. Tasha with Dhruva. Pritena, being very pleased. Manasa, with such a mentality. Tam, that remembrance. Datva, having given. Edavidaha, Kuvera, son of Idavida. Tataha, thereafter. Piyataha, while Dhruva was looking on. Antadade disappeared. Saha, he Dhruva. Api, also. Swapuram, to his city. Padyata, returned. Translation. The son of Idavida, Lord Kuvera, was very pleased, and happily he gave Dhruva the benediction he wanted. Therefore, he disappeared from Dhruva's presence, and Dhruva Maharaj returned to his capital city. Please kindly responsibly repeat. The son of Idavida, Lord Kuvera, was very pleased, and happily he gave Dhruva Maharaj the benediction he wanted. Thereafter he disappeared from Dhruva's presence, and Dhruva Maharaj returned to his capital city. Purport. Kuvera, who is known as the son of Idavida, was very pleased with Dhruva Maharaj because he did not ask him for anything materially enjoyable. Kuvera is one of the demigods, so one may put forward the argument, quote, why did Dhruva Maharaj take a benediction from a demigod, unquote. The answer is that for a Vaishnava, there is no objection to taking a benediction from a demigod if it is favorable for advancing Krishna consciousness. The gopis, for example, worship Katyayani, a demigoddess, but the only benediction they wanted from the goddess was to have Krishna as their husband. A Vaishnava is not interested in asking any benediction from the demigods, nor is he interested in asking benediction from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is said that in the Bhagavatam that liberation can be offered by the Supreme Person, but he refuses to accept it. I'll tell you that again. It is said that in the Bhagavatam, that liberation can be offered by the Supreme Person. But even if a pure devotee is offered liberation by the Supreme Lord, he refuses to accept it. Dhruva Maharaj did not ask Kuvera for transference to the spiritual world, which is called liberation. He simply asks that wherever he will remain, whether in the spiritual or in the material world, he will always remember the Supreme Personality of Godhead. A Vaishnava is always respectful to everyone. So when Kuvera offered him a benediction, he did not refuse it, but he wanted something which would be favorable to his advancement in Krishna consciousness. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnana Jana Salakaya Saksul Meditam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurubhe Namaha Sachetam Manobhistam Stavetam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupam Kadamayam Dadati Swabadantikam Vandi Sri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Sahodita Gurudaya Puspavantu Chita Chandutamam. Vancha kalpataribhyacha kripasanubhyayevacha paditanam pavanam vaishnavabhyo namo namaha. Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Prasada Sri Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nityananda. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Charina Nirvisensa Sonyavadi Pasatyadi Sutari. So, welcome everyone to this morning Bhagavatam class. And from this text, we are meant to understand the one of the parents of Kuvera. It's mentioned here that Idavida, one of parents, apparently his father, Idavida is the father of Kuvera. One significant transparency in the interaction is that when he offered the benediction to Dhruva Maharaj, he disappeared. So the demigods, they have this power to appear and disappear. They can come to you to give you the benedictions. It may be visible to you. They have these CDs. There are CDs described in the Bhagavatam, in the 12th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. There are different types of CDs. You can become smaller than the smallest. You can pass through can pass through a concrete wall without a crack. So, and you can become lighter than the lightest. In India, still we find yogis who go into one river, say River Ganga, say they go into the river, say in Mayapur, and then they appear something very far away, maybe in Orisha, in Jagannath-puri. Yep, so people have those type of cities. And the demigods, they're very, very much endowed with cities. And so here Kuvera, after finishing his business with Dhruva, he just disappeared. He turned into the air. So this is one of the reasons why people are fascinated worshiping the demigods, the cities. They see some practical demonstration and people are enamored. Can you imagine that you find someone who is not walking on the ground, is walking like 6 inches above the ground? How will you rate him? If he says he is the Jesus that you are waiting for, people will embrace that. Oh, yeah. And so, people who do not know the details, and that's why we want our devotees to study these books, so that you don't get bewildered when there's a manifestation of some cities like this. You know that, yes, these things are there. For instance, the ignorant public are so much bewildered by Siddhic powers. So there are some people, spiritualists, who will just, turn their hands are empty palm, and they turn their hands up into the sky, and then, they bring in a silver ring. And then the people who are there, they say, wow! He's worthy of worship. He's worthy of following. But this is just one of the basic cities, mystical powers that the conditioned soul can be endowed with. It doesn't make you God. It doesn't make you any powerful being. But people are in ignorance of all of these, fundamental knowledge and mysticism. And so when somebody comes and displays a mystic power, it could have millions of followers. And I just laugh sometimes when I see some of this display of fake CDs. How people are I've been watching some videos on the internet, and all these Christians, they also dance in ecstasy these days, Yeah. But, sometimes it could be really funny. And when you view some of the things that these people do, you touch somebody, the church leader touches somebody, one of the followers, and then it fell off. People want to appreciate power. And so these guys, they are very expert. The religious people, they are very expert. And this makes it difficult for people to believe, to have faith in religion, because there are so many cheats all over the place. Now, the mass of people who do not understand the difference between Siddhic powers and devotion, they are enamored to this. These people who display this type of powers. Or the Siddhic, the mystic, the mystic yogi could cure any type of disease. Doctors also cure diseases after they become God. Doctors, see, engineers, they can float an iron in the airplane, and it will go for thousands of miles. Have they become God? ignorance. Ignorance is so much bewildering people on this planet. And therefore, the value of knowledge is not only to become purified, to repeat the same, become purified and go back to Godhead, but it also protects you from the inherent dangers of this material world that is full of cheats and the cheated. And so, here, the emphasis, especially in this purport, is about how Dhruva got his benediction of how to be able to remember Krishna all the time, to become absorbed in devotional service. As the Prabhupada makes a point here that someone may argue that, oh, he said, if Dhruva Maharaj is a devotee, why must he accept benediction from the demigods? Accepting a benediction from the demigods is different from worshipping the demigods. So he gives the a corollary of the gopis worshipping Mother Goddess Katyayani. They were so much dedicated to the worship of Katyayani. But for what? One could say, oh, the gopis also, they were worshipping demigods. Yes, they were worshipping demigods. They worship sun god. They worship Katyayani. But asking for what? It's there in the Bhagavatam. They were praying to Mother Katyayani. Please, that son of Nanda Maharaj, he is so cute. Can you make him my husband? Oh yeah. That was the purpose of worshiping Katyayani. They praying to Katyayani, please let Krishna be my husband. So it's different. They didn't go to demigods and say, please give me your husband. There's a difference. You make Krishna, I want to get Krishna as my husband. Please help me out. So they have a purpose, a pinpointed, a fixated purpose. Therefore, it is important for us to understand the difference. We respect the demigods. Vaishnavas, we respect the demigods. Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, Ganesh, we respect all these devatas. Because they are devotees of the Lord who are in charge of different departments of the creation. They are administrators of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You know, when you have a president or a chancellor, they have, different supporters, different heads, secretaries, and, governors in different areas who are helping with managing affairs for the purpose of, peaceful flow of information and security. So, Krishna basically did not resonate with his devotees worshipping the demigods. He didn't subscribe to it. And sometimes we find people have been so much addicted to worship of demigods, and they could be in the movement for decades, and they're still attached to the worship of the demigods, and, what can you do? Yeah, I remember sometime I was traveling out of America. I was traveling. I went to one country, and then the home I was staying, these guys, they're Brahmins. They initiated Brahmins in ISKCON. But they're coming from a Hindu background, and so they still do, the man still does the puja for some demigod. So the important thing, we don't condemn people. Don't try to talk like Krishna in the public. You can, yell at people that, hey, you're worshiping demigods, you're doomed, you're unintelligent, you're this, you're that. Like Prabhupada chastises scientists. We don't go into the streets and try to chastise people. We are not Prabhupada. And Prabhupada chastises the scientists and he makes them devotees. Oh yeah. He chastises the Mayavadis and he makes them devotees. Someone was telling me a story before I went to the Caribbeans, and he's originally from the Caribbeans. He was telling me his country in the Caribbeans, the preaching is very low, and he told me the reason. He said the people who are supposed to support the devotees, the local priests, the Hindu priests, that the devotees, we are castigating them right from the beginning. And now they have, relationship is not so good. And they are the local people who are grounded there to help the devotees, to call them even from different programs and all these things. So we have to be careful how we channel our devotional energies for a sustainable, productive end. Idea is to be able to get local people to help us get infiltration into the mainstream culture so as to plant the seeds of devotion. But if we claim to the people, the local people, that, hey, I'm better than you, you know. I'm far better than you. You're just in Maya. You're working, you're just in Maya. You're schooling, you're just in Maya. I'm better than you. We have to grow up. So I'm giving just a typical example of this country. I went there, I went to the Caribbean, and I went to 3 countries. The other 2 countries, the preaching is flourishing. They doing a program, people full of the temple. These are the countries that they were using those strategies and just trying to humiliate other religious groups that they're supposed to work cooperatively together to sustain their own initial preaching arrangements, especially after the COVID. In fact, the president told me nobody's coming to the temple after the COVID, and I saw it myself. They couldn't hold a program in that temple. On Sunday, they have to arrange for me to give a temple in another center. So we have to use our common sense in interacting with people and in dealing with people. We should, initially we were very fanatical, and I know this. But right now we should grow up, we should stop the fanaticism and be friendly with people. Yes, we have the highest knowledge, but we need to be humble. We need to be humble. Because if you go out there to chastise people because they are not following your system 10%, you don't get anything. You just get some. What you gain is actually a conflict, psychological conflict or physical conflict. And therefore, we have to figure out ways on how to lure people to our movement, to appreciate the teachings of Prabhupada. And when they read the books, when they read the books, they may be able to decipher between what is wrong and what is good. So the initial strategy, if you look at what Prabhupada did in New York when he first went to New York and established this storefront at 26 Second Avenue. I used to go to that place to give classes when I'm in New York. And in the beginning, Prabhupada had a lot of difficulties in getting himself set up. And he was dealing with all these hippies, bohemians, potheads. But he didn't condemn them. He didn't condemn them. He didn't show them that, hey, look, I'm a holy man, I'm a sadhu. You are all drunkards, you bohemians, you drug addicts. You just, no. He made them friends. He treated them nicely, even more than he loved his own biological children. And that is why when some of them realized this elderly person, he came all the way from India, he's giving us knowledge, and look at how he's caring for us. Look at how he loves us. They gave their lives to Prabhupada. And so these were initial people that Prabhupada sent to different places. Sent them to the UK, sent them to Germany, sent them to different places. So we have to recognize that not everyone has sufficient pious credit to be part of our movement. But we have to encourage people to be friendly. No matter their devotional inclination, we have to see how we are connecting with people. And people of different calibers. You guys are doing some university teaching, preaching programs here? Okay. Yeah, universities are also wonderful avenues to recruit devotees. And those who preach in universities, each country I go, I warn them, do not tell a student to leave their studies to come and live in a temple. Encourage them to finish their studies. Because I remember one proper disciple, he's from Colombia, he told me a story. I was in Alache, Florida. We went for a Ratha Yatra. We organized the Ratha Yatra in another city. So we went, and after the Ratha Yatra, he was driving me back to the temple. I didn't ask anything. Because proper disciple, I had respect for him. But then he opened up himself. He told how he was a medical student. Huh? He was a medical student. He was the only medical student in his family. And then he met devotees, and they were pressurizing him to stop his studies and come be a brahmachari. Stop his studies and come be a brahmachari. So the pressure was much. At some point in time, he gave in. And then there was a big trouble between himself and his family. This is the only medical student they had. There was a big trouble. So he literally created a purple bull of demarcation between himself and his family members. The brahmachari life, he couldn't sustain it. At some point in time, he got married. He got married with children. He had no skills. This is not Puranic story, just recently. And therefore, we have to see how our recruitment strategies should be geared towards sustainability. People who could sustain their devotional culture, sustain also their talent management developments. In that way, we can bring people from different backgrounds. And so, another thing I found, as I travel around, and I always cite this example in New York. There was one boy, he was studying, he was doing a PhD in physics in one university in Ohio State. So I was in Columbus, which is a temple in Ohio State. So he came there. He met me and he started lamenting that, he's just wasting his time studying this physics, PhD physics. What is he going to do with it? He's just wasting his time. So I encouraged him that, no. We have scientists in our movement, and they are using their skills to do amazing preaching, to connect with other scientists. Because the ordinary person goes to meet, you can't even have access to the scientists, except you are a scientist yourself. So I told him how we have scientists in our movement, like Sadhuputta and all these other people, who are using their scientific skills in preaching, building bridges with the other scientists, and making them devotees. So I encourage him that, please, you continue with the program. Finish the program, and then you can do whatever you want. So he finished his PhD, and you know what he did? He went to apply for a postdoctoral program. So he finished his postdoctoral program. Postdoctoral, when you finish your PhD and you go for postdoctoral research, it means that you are ready to go, you're prepared to go and teach in a university. But no, he finished his postdoctoral and then moved into the temple to be a brahmachari. Who told you that when you have education, you cannot be a devotee? Who said that? I've seen that. Even in San Diego, in California, there's one brahmachari there. He has a PhD. So we should not use education as an excuse not to train our children. The parents, they should hear this. We have to grow up. If we want to reach people in the echelon of society, we also have to have people who are really high profile in professional development and in education. Otherwise, see, I remember when I was still in Africa, I was pretty young at the time, I was a young brahmachari, and then I went to see one professor in a federal university that wanted to solicit for me to come to speak to his final year students. He was the head of the department for philosophy and religion. And because of, the way I dress, the brahmachari dress, and all these tilaks and all this, and he's coming from a Christian background. So he just looked at me despicably. He looked me up, like 3 times. And then he said, "We don't do this here." In other words, get lost. But then at that time, I already had 25 publications in academic journals within 3 years. That time I was like crazy. So, when you achieve also much, it goes into your head sometimes. So when he rejected me like that, so I said, "Excuse me, sir, but I have 25 publications in peer-reviewed journals in 3 years." He was shocked. Then he was very, very polite. He said, "Can I see some of those publications?" So the next day, I brought 3 publications from the premier university in the country. And I flipped through, I showed him my publications. And there was a 360-degree U-turn. He asked now, very calmly, "So, when are you coming to make your presentation?" One devotee, he's Saswarup Maharaj's disciple, he told me this story in Gitanagari, a Caucasian, a white devotee. He told me how they went to Harvard University to distribute purpose books, back to God specifically. So he never went to college. And he approached one guy, alighted from his car, to give him a magazine. And then the guy just turned to him and said, "Don't you know I'm Howard professor?" In other words, see, the Howard professors in America, they're treated like demigods because Howard is one of the most reputed universities in the country. So then he knows the value of being a Howard professor, and then he told me he was demoralized. The whole day he couldn't distribute even a single back to God. So if we don't have the proper skills and talents in meeting people of high profile position, their response to our offer could be demoralizing. Because then we feel that low self-esteem. And those things need to stop. Therefore, the people who are procreating, they should understand, be prepared to train your children to whatever level. The issue is that in most cases, we relegate the instructions of the Upanishad. Cultivate science and nations side by side. Integration could be difficult. I agree. Doing both, getting someone, taking a child, encouraging a child to go to school and encouraging that child to also be serious with their sadhana. Sometimes people don't understand how to make it work. Even some people who are working, they say they don't have the time to chant. And I like meeting church people. I'll sit them down and analyze their 24 hours with them. and show them the loopholes in their whole mismanagement of their 24 hours that is resulting to inability to integrate their work and their sadhana. So the devotees must understand that we have a lot of work to do. And we will not go and beg the demigods to come and preach for us. We can only accept the air they provide for us for free to breathe. We can accept the water they provide for us. We can't employ them to come and preach for us. We need to be prepared for the future. We are just beginning. Bhakti Thakur says, when we see the judges on tilak, then we should know we are making progress. Oh yeah. So yes, we should seek for blessings everywhere. We should seek for blessings from Prabhupada. We should seek for blessings from the senior devotees. We should seek for blessings from Lord Krishna, from Prahlad Singha. Whatever we are doing, we should seek for the blessings of the Lord. And therefore, it's so intriguing that the devotee does everything that he or she has to do, but then the ultimate objective is to become absorbed, to remember Krishna all the time. Man mana, baba, ma bhakta, mam yaji, mam namask. Everything else we are doing is to facilitate offenseless chanting. Everything we are doing. There is nothing we do in this moment. There is no service we do in this moment that is superior or that is superior to the chanting. Everything else we are doing is to help us to chant better. I remember when I was younger in New Jersey, we have this brahmachari who was also a pujari. I was a pujari at the time and doing my academic preaching too. So it was during Janmashtami. So I asked the other pujari, did you chant your rounds? Did you chant your 16 rounds yesterday? He was very upset with me. He thought, why are you asking me? You know how I was so busy yesterday that I wouldn't chant 16 rounds. So I told him, look, I was also busy. It's not a priority. That's the problem. You don't make it a priority. You have a misunderstanding of the goal in Krishna consciousness. So sometimes we misunderstand the goal, the objective criteria of all of our services, that ultimately we should understand. The services we do are meant to bring us closer to Krishna. And how to become closer to Krishna in Kali Yuga? To chant Krishna's names. So if we neglect that very principle and we think there is something else we are doing that is more important than that, that's not so good. We miss the point. And so, we may interact with anybody. We may collect donations from anybody. We may solicit for donations from anybody. But then the whole idea is to facilitate our Krishna consciousness development. Whatever resources we may beg is for the service of the Lord. But then ultimately, we should not miscue that the things we are doing supersede the chanting, that we don't have time to chant. And remember, I like telling this story. The guy became my friend. When this guy was in medical school, I went to their area, to their state in America. So he got attracted to me, so he was going around with me to different programs. So we were in a car, someone was driving, we were going to a program, and he said, Maharaj, can I ask you a question? I said, come on, you're my friend, ask me any question you want to ask. So he said, we medical doctors, we don't have the time to chant 16 rounds. We're very busy. researching, attending to patients in the clinic. So my first question to him was, my response to him was, you think you are the first medical doctor in this movement, right? At that time in Washington, D.C., the home I was staying, the man is a medical doctor. His wife is a registered nurse. They have big deities at home. They do Mangarati every day. They don't fail to chant 16 rounds. So I just give that example that, listen, the home I stayed in Washington, D.C., the man is a medical doctor. They have big deities at home. They do Mangarati every day. He chants every day 16 rounds. So I said, okay, let's figure out how you use your day. How many hours you use for sleeping? He mentioned. How many hours for your school? Because he was doing his specialization in the MD. He finished his MBBS in India. He got scholarship to come to America to do his specialization in MD. So I said, how many hours you use out of the day? In the 24 hours of the day, how many hours you use for your studies? He mentioned. To cut matter short, when we check everything, a chunk of time he couldn't account for. And literally, it was almost like crying. He was begging, oh, Maharaj, I'm sorry. I didn't use my time properly. I said, okay, now you see the loophole in your life. So sometimes we can just complain that we don't have the time to do this, we don't have the time to do that. We do have the time to serve Krishna. We do have the time to do the services. We do have the time to chant. No excuses. Otherwise, the whole of the human life will be abused. Therefore, the relevant information for us here is how Dhruva adopts the principle of Yukta Vairagya. He didn't reject. Sometimes we find some yogis still dominant in India. We find some yogis, some impersonalists, someone offers them a donation, and they say, no. The money is Maya. Yeah, money is Maya. And Prabhupada says, now, we'll collect the money to build temple for Krishna. Collect the money to print books. This is the principle of utility being the principle. Utility, Prabhupada said, is the principle. So we utilize everything. We use our intelligence. We use our bodies. We use our financial resources in serving Krishna. And so everything in this material world is actually belonging to Krishna. We are just caretakers. Krishna is the ultimate proprietor. Therefore, we should act like Dhruva, take everything to facilitate our devotional advancement, to facilitate our devotional growth. Anything that is not favorable to our devotional advancement, we can reject it. The son of Idavida, Lord Kuvera, was very pleased. And happily, he gave to Dhruva Maharaj the benediction he wanted. Therefore, he disappeared from Dhruva's presence. And Dhruva Maharaj returned to his capital city. So, accepting gifts on behalf of Krishna, accepting donations on behalf of Krishna, accepting even whatever someone may offer, we don't reject it. We see how to utilize same in progressing in Krishna consciousness. That's the implication of this very purport in our own lives. Any comments or questions? Yes, please.
Hare Krishna. This point about chanting was very interesting for me. So sometimes I also get corrected when I'm negligence of chanting, and that's very good for me. And sometimes I might see also that devotees might not be so interested in chanting, or maybe don't want to chant, don't have the taste, or think something else is better at the moment. So how to act in that case? Is it depending on the relationship with that devotee, or should one always say something and try to help?
Oh, yeah. That's a nice question. See, I think Brian also was asking some issues about dealing with devotees. You see, one of the things I found is that, see, I was temple president, our regional secretary, all those management teams, well, they were part of this stuff that I was dealing with. But it's always good to go through all of this type of settings so that you can so that you are able to help people in a favorable way better in the future. Yeah, what traditionally happens is that if someone, you have to study the people around you. If you are as a team leader, managing the temple, managing some project, you have to act as a team leader. So managing a team, you have to be the coordinator of the services. As soon as you don't exercise that you are the controller, you're good. If you act as a coordinator of the services, you will have the opportunity to be able to correct somebody in the best way they are susceptible to. There are some people who cannot take open corrections. Some people, they would prefer that you call them privately and tell them, this is not, the same thing applies in the family. If you have a child, a child is bound to do something nasty, nonsense. But is it your right to just bully the child because they do something silly? Krishna said, Tam titikshasva bharata. You have to tolerate. That doesn't apply? No, it applies to the parents. It applies to the manager. So if someone is doing something that is not in conformity with strategies for spiritual advancement, if we make that person a friend, we can easily correct them. I remember the case of somebody who was very stubborn, and the whole community, the whole yatra, they were afraid of him. But he was my friend, my close friend. I was his only senior friend, because nobody could deal with him. And sometimes the people wonder, how is Vasudeva able to, befriend this guy? But I'm very malleable. I'm adjustable. I can adjust myself to get along with anybody on this planet. So when I get too much of a report about him, so one day I just arranged that we'll go out. We are peers. We take first initiation at the same time, second initiation at the same time. He decided to get married, and I went on with my brahmachari life. So we went out to the farm, to one farm community. So I told him, let's go on a japa walk into the woods. So we went. And then as we went, because we have friends, real close friends. I'm his closest friend in the movement. And so as we went into the japa, into the woods, I told him, we have to sit down someplace. So we sat down. And I started telling him all the stuff that he's been doing, that people are complaining. And they come to complain to me because they say I'm his friend. And at some point in time, my tone was very high, and he realized that I felt very offended. So after speaking to him, the need for him to check himself, his response? He said, Vasudeva, you are my friend. Whatever you say, I accept. This is not Purana story. It just happened recently. So, if you are friendly with somebody, we can correct them. If even we are harsh on them, they know it's for their own good. Now, if we play just an official relationship with a person and we want to correct them, there is always a in management science, we have this principle called resistance to change. The people will always resist anything you say, even your own 2 years old child. 2 years old. Even 1 year, 8 months. As soon as they are talking, you see that resistance. You tell them something, they will even tell you no. In America, the child learns the monosyllables of the child. The first monosyllables of the child is no. That's what they learn. But it is something ingrained in all of us. It's embedded in us. Resistance. We are by nature small Ishwaras. We don't want someone else to be our Ishwara. This is the problem. And so, if we understand the mood of that person, we can help the person better. So first thing we do is to study people around us, people we are working with, people in our team, so that we understand whether he's someone who can take open chastisement. And some people, I like when my Guru Maharaj chastises me in the open, because then it makes me to be humble. Because then I think, oh, I'm just nonsense, everybody else is better than me. But if the Guru starts praising you in the public, you are in for trouble, Because the tendency is to think you are better off than anyone else. And therefore, we have to learn different ways on how to help people, especially those who are leading teams or those who are managing devotees. Because we're coming from different backgrounds, and in our nature and nurture, they're completely different. So we have to see how we are beginning to understand the nature of the person that we are dealing with, whether they are the set of people that can accept corrections. If the ego is too much, then you just be friendly with the person, and you can call them privately to explain to them how that attitude or that way of behavior is not going to be very productive to them in the future, and it's a cause of distraction to other devotees. Some people, they love private counseling. Some people, they prefer that you openly, chastise them. Few people want to be chastised openly. Yeah. In general, people, we have ego. Also, okay? So when you say something, then they would rather take an offense. But yeah, we have to figure out ways on how to help the devotees around us. Someone is doing some destructive thing. If we understand their mood, we should not just, turn our back and pretend as if we don't see it. We have to do something to help. I remember one of the final instructions that Bhakti Swami gave to me when he was living. One of them was, Vasudeva, you've been keeping quiet for decades. Stop it. When you see something that is not good, say it. If they don't take it, you are free from the reactions. So you have devotees around you, and they are doing something that is harmful to their spiritual life, and you just pretend as if you don't see it. You are also going to be part of the reactions, because you're in a position to help them, and you refuse to help. I mean, look at the case of Bhishma and Drona. You know why they were killed on the battlefield? Huh? You know why they were killed on the battlefield? Yeah. In fact, Krishna was queried, I think by Rukmini, after the war. How can you do this? You allow our gurus to be killed, Bhishma, Drona, and you were there? Cool your head. See, yes, they are our gurus. But look at what they did. A woman was being insulted, was being abused, was being derobed. Right there in the hall. They were there. They didn't say anything. So this is part of their reactions. So yeah, leadership is a lot of responsibility. We can't keep quiet when things are going wrong. But we also have to have the appropriate skills and technology to address issues as they crop up without hurting anyone's feelings. Yeah. Be friendly. If you're friendly and loving, if even you say something harsh to somebody, they will understand it's their fault. But if you're dealing with them based on official relationships, we have to see their mood and see how best to help them. Does it serve some purpose? All right. Any last comment? Otherwise, we have to adjourn this meeting. Okay.
Just reflecting on chanting and the importance of chanting in the community. I remember the Madhavananda Prabhu, if you know him, is coming soon, and I remember hearing a seminar from him quoting Prabhupada in a meeting in Mayapur with GBCs and sannyasis. And Prabhupada was saying, I hope I'm getting it correctly, like, instead of meetings, resolutions, dissolutions, and no solutions, this chanting must go on. So he was like really very assertive on this point. So like in our communities, especially when we are talking about a farm community with so many projects, either on the side or preaching and so on, we really tend to lose that essence, like the sacredness or the importance of the japa time and coming together and do kirtan to chant is really like not perfect, let's say.
Sure. Yeah.
So
I
how to
think,
increase
yeah,
that?
it's even you have a leverage here. I remember going to one temple, one farm community, and they were not even having Sunday programs. They said they are very busy. And then when I came back to New York, the home I was staying, the host was complaining to me about that community, that they are not having programs. I had been there and I had the experience. I had the lived experience. So that endangers the life of the devotees, because we are supposed to be Krishnaholics. We are not workaholics. So if we take only working, serving, and then we forget the essence of the religious principle in Kali Yoga, we are driving ourselves to the brink of devotional disaster. So we should not neglect the chanting. We have taken vows of 16 rounds every day, at least. So no matter how busy we are, we should ensure that we are keeping up with that promise before the deities, that promise before the demigods, that promise before the spiritual master and the assembled devotees, that we're able to chant 16 rounds every day. 16 rounds is nothing. Yeah. So that should be our priority. Everything else we are doing is fine, but we should not neglect the chanting. We neglect the chanting, at some point in time, we become disinterested in even those services that we very much incline in. Motivation begins to diminish, because the prime factor is to be able to remember Krishna and chant Krishna's names. So the temptation is there to think that I'm too busy. Or, sometimes ladies, they give birth and they stop chanting. One lady, she told me that story. I went to give a talk at the university, and she was also there. She's a devotee, but then she stopped chanting. She told me her story. After delivery, she stopped chanting for a long time. And then when the baby started creeping, She didn't even know where her chanting bag was. When her baby started creeping in the house, the baby crept to one corner or in the sitting room and put his hand into some place and brought out the mother's chanting bag and beads. And then he crept again to the mother, held her feet, and got up and gave the beads to her. So she told the story that she thought, what? This is not this baby. This is my guru telling me, hey, you rascal, come on, you have to join. So, see, we can use different excuses. See, if we love somebody, I know of people, boys and girls, who travel from, say, one continent, cross another continent, and then to another continent to meet their boyfriend. Yeah. Oh, yeah. If you're serious, if you're serious, we can always make out the time. That's the point. We can always make out the time to chant. And in some cases, we don't have someone who really confronts us. I confront a lot of my followers, my mentees, my friends in the beginning. When they say, oh, because of work, and this, like this doctor I was mentioning about. That guy, incidentally, that was several years ago. I think he didn't take his sadhana seriously. Up to now, he's not gotten initiation. So I asked him why. Last time I met him, he's married with some 3 kids or so. I asked him, why is he not initiated up to now? He said he's not been chanting 16 rounds regularly. So we can be hanging out in the movement for decades and just to make dedication to being prepared to go back to God, we're not interested. With the chanting, we have to take it seriously. That's the point. So thank you for raising this. Yes, you wanted to ask a question? Yes, Bola.
Yeah, I would be interested because you mentioned the Sunday program, and here also we don't have it. But I once visited my parents, and then I went to a Sunday program in the temple nearby, and I felt that whatever program is going on there, we have it twice a day here. Like we have our elaborate morning worship, we have our breakfast feast, we have our lunch feast, we have our evening worship. We have 2 classes every day, and so. But sometimes I heard this also. Some guests, devotees from a broader community, they're asking, you don't have any Sunday feast here? So, do you think that such a thing would be a relevant thing here, or would you say that whatever is going on already, it is sufficient?
Well, if I think you have regular. I don't know whether this is just happening now or it's been usual, but I think your attendance here is pretty good. That some of you come to the program without giving any second thought to it. And so that is a good sign. If we love Krishna, if we love somebody, we want to be in his presence. How can we say we love somebody when we don't want to hang out with the person? Does it work like that? So yes, having different programs is good. And the different programs we have again, when you have a farm community, I know the case of New Vrindavan. I can give an example of that. They do everything. And in most cases, outside of India, Swami is a prominent feature in the programs of the ISKCON temples. Now, if you have another thing you are doing, here you're having morning class and evening class, which is very, 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 very important, very, very nice. Because some places, they get too busy and then they don't have evening program. Here you are still sustaining that, setting that proper, established morning programs, evening morning classes and evening classes. So it all depends on what the management and the devotees want, because I'm just coming here for the first time. I wouldn't come to suggest to you what is most ideal for you. Practical things you have to do to be able to sustain your devotional life and to attract more people to your community. Sometimes also you have to, get some suggestions from your congregation. Those who are coming, you find out what programs that they will want to see, because not everyone is going to be able to come for a morning program. Most of these people are working, the professionals working, so they may not be able to come for a program. And if you have some other programs on the weekend, and they know about it, then they will be eager to participate. In most cases, people who are not living in the temple, they're a little bit lackadaisical in coming to a Mangalati and to a morning class, because their bodies, their brains are not wired for that. They may have the time, but So if we understand how to motivate them and devise some type of strategies, setting up some programs that will motivate them, it's fine. Yeah. I think when I get back to the U.S., I have to talk to that president. The guy who is in charge of that place, that they're not having programs, even on Sunday. They don't have classes on Sunday. They're working very hard. They're a big community. They have all this machinery for producing all types of milk products. They have plenty of cows. But the purpose that Prabhupada wanted us to have farm communities is to make our farm communities Krishna-centered. And so the people who are coming, yes, in Vrindavan, they still have, these programs going on. Of course, that place it's a big community, and they have a lot of human resources for investment in the development of the projects. Yeah, so it depends on what your management wants and what the devotees want. Yeah. All right, it's 8 minutes past 9. If there is no other comment or questions, I pray for the adjournment of this meeting. Anyone supporting it? Or rejecting this? Rejecting the proposal? I don't know. No, silence. It depends on circumstances. In the legal system, silence may mean something else. In America, people always quote different type of rights. He asks, someone goes to court and then he asks them, is being cross-examined. He asks, the prosecutor asks a question and then they just keep quiet. Sometimes like that. Well, we are not in a legal system. We're in a temple, okay? So everybody should feel free to say something. All right. We can join this discussion now. Tomorrow is another day. So again, thank you very much for participating in this Krishna consciousness. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai.